We've discussed the many mistakes of the Friday the 13th franchise. Now it's time to discuss the top 10 things the franchise gets right. What is up, guys? It's top 10 time, and we're going to do actually the top 13 things the franchise gets right. I had a really good time putting this list together, and I could have put more on the list because it's a really fun franchise. And also, I apologize for not getting this out on the actual Friday the 13th. Sometimes just time gets in the way. But this was a list that I was definitely going to get out eventually. And now I'm excited to do it with you guys. And anyway, we're going to start with number 13. I would say final girls and likable characters. I think out of all the franchises, Friday has probably the best final girls, with Alice in the first one, Jenny in the second, Trish in part 4, Tina from part 7, Megan from part 6. I could go on. There's so many quality final girls, but also outside of final girls, there's just some really likable characters in this franchise, especially in those like first 4 movies. I really loved all the characters in this, and I think that's part of the reason why you love the franchise so much. Which leads me to number 12, best comfort horror. The Friday franchise is one of those franchises that I can throw in on a rainy day, I can throw it in at night, I can throw it in at any time. And they're just so easily accessible. You know, you don't have to like get into any kind of headspace to enjoy these movies.
Jesus Christmas! Holy Jesus goddamn! Holy Jesus jumping Christmas shit!
They're just cheeseburger comfort movies. That's what they are. And I always have a blast, to be honest, with just about every entry in the franchise. You know, I think they're just kind of harmless. I think the first 4 movies are the greats, but even the bad movies, they're fun because at the end of the day, it's just Jason going around killing people with a machete. What's not to love about that? Number 11, I reserved a special place for just this right here. Crispin Glover and Teddy Bear, or Ted. But these two characters I really, really love just because of how eccentric they were. Really just that bond that they had with each other. You know, they were like bros.
A dead fuck? A lousy lay. You know? A dead... Oh, I see. Oh, don't hold it back from me, Doc. I can take it. Give it to me straight.
They were just hilarious. I mean, and Crispin Glover's dance is so freaking funny. Every time I watch it, I'm just gut laughing. And I heard that behind the scenes they were playing Back in Black, but they ended up playing the song that we know and love in there. And then of course Teddy Bear, especially the scene where he's like getting high and he's like want to give Teddy Bear a kiss. And these two guys were probably the horniest characters in all of horror. I'm gonna go ahead and give them that title. Okay, number 10, I was gonna give this to just one of the Jason actors. But there are so many quality Jason stuntmen that play the character that I just pretty much lumped them all together. And in no particular order. You got Richard Brooker, you got Kane Hodder, you got Ted White, who happens to be my favorite, Derek Mears, CJ Graham. There's just so many great actors. And really, I'll call them actors that portrayed these characters because they all have their own different mannerisms about them, their own strengths. And every one of them has... They're fans. There are fans of each one of these names that I just mentioned, and they will swear that this guy is the best Jason. You know, especially like CJ Graham, Richard Brooker, Ted White, hell, even Kane Hodder. But definitely had to make a special designation for all these actors. Number 9, The Mask. It really is an iconic mask. I mean, this was signed by Kane Hodder, by the way, but it's amazing to me that this mask didn't present itself until the 3rd movie. And really like in the middle of the 3rd movie. And it's just so iconic looking. I mean, a hockey mask, there is something kind of creepy about it. And it works so well for the character of Jason. Because he is probably the most athletic out of all the horror icons. But then in part 2, you had the Sackhead Jason, which for a long time, I think Sackhead Jason was my favorite version of the character. I go back and forth, but I mean, it's really close. I mean, part 4 is my favorite movie, so I guess I would give the edge to the hockey mask. But I mean, to have not one, but 2 iconic masks in a franchise. I don't think any other franchise can claim that. Number 8, the score, especially by Harry Manfredini, who did quite a few of the movies actually, but just that simple, just by doing that, it gives the franchise its own musical signature. And aside from that, I like, it's like a Psycho type of score. There's a lot of similarities between Manfredini's, I guess, stalking score with Psycho. But it works for the Friday franchise, really. And I think that score is probably what scared me the most about the franchise when I was a little kid. It is the first franchise to genuinely scare me that I knew the name of. And it was part 3. But I remember a big part of that, a big reason why I was covering my eyes like this was because of that score. And I don't know why I'm covering my eyes when I don't see the score, I hear it. But it's very effective. Number 7, giving this to the character Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Jarvis was played by 3 different actors. I really love Corey Feldman's portrayal of the character, and of course Tom Matthews. I think those 2 really nailed Tommy Jarvis. And they're very different, but I think a lot of times we're different from when we're a kid to when we're an adult. I would wager that I was probably different when I was like 10 years old. But these both are very gifted actors. Say what you want about Corey Feldman, but I mean, he was a child actor and he was easily the most important character in that movie. And the end of the movie when he shaves his head and comes down and he really kills Jason. That's pretty iconic stuff. And then of course Tom Matthews with part 6, which is just probably the most entertaining Jason movie out of the bunch. Tom Matthews was a big part of that. You know, he turned up the crazy a couple of pegs higher than he needed to, but it worked for how zany the movie was. Maggot Head. Number 6 is the final chapter, the whole goddamn movie. It is just the most perfect slasher movie to ever exist. Start to finish, there's just something, it's magic. That's what part 4 is. Joseph Zito was the one director that I think crafted the best story. He had the best Jason. He had Corey Feldman. He had probably the most likable cast out of the whole bunch. It was easily the scariest movie out of the whole bunch. I could go on. There's so many things about 4 that sets it apart from every other entry in the franchise. It's easily the one that I watched the most out of the franchise. And also, it's got a crazy ending, especially when Jason's like, he falls down on the machete and it like cuts his head in half. Insane stuff. And I'll restate this. Part 4, as far as a slasher template, that's your template right there. If you want to start somewhere, grab part 4, watch that, take notes. That is the slasher template that every slasher director should hope to achieve. Number 5, TNA. I mean, it's obvious. Nudity. Every one of these movies, I think they even said, like, every 15 minutes, I want a fresh pair of breasts and I want a fresh kill. And Friday is known for that. It has the hottest chicks. It has, you know, everything that you would want in an 80s slasher movie in terms of girls. It has all that stuff. It's a big reason why it's popular. Not just Jason alone, but that stuff too. Especially for like 12-year-old boys. Number 4, the kills. I think Friday has the best kills, the most inventive kills, the funnest kills. Hell, one of the greatest kills I think I've ever seen is from Jason X, which is probably one of the worst slashers of the bunch. But that cryogenic face smash kill, top that. That's amazing. And I think it's one of those franchises that you don't have to do like Michael Myers and most of the time just use, you know, a kitchen knife. It's not about that. It's about fun. It's about coming up with the funnest ways to kill your victims. The sleeping bag kill. When I put together my top, I think I did a top 13 kills of the franchise. That was a tough list to put together because you could take 2 movies and find 13 good kills. It's just that good of a franchise in terms of kills. Number 3, I'm gonna say the first 4 movies in terms of quality, I think beats all other franchises. I'm talking like great movie after great movie after great movie after great movie. All 4 of those movies are solid. You know, of course, we're all going to have our favorites, my favorite being part 4. But I would wager that, you know, there are fans of each one of those movies. I'd say the 3rd movie probably has the most memorable kills of the bunch. But, you know, just those first 4 movies, I think, beat every other franchise. You know, how can you say that your first 4 movies in a franchise are all just stellar? It's not an easy thing to do. Friday did it. Number 2, I'm going to give this one to Pamela Voorhees. I think Betsy Palmer's a big reason for that. I think when people first saw this movie, they were shocked. They didn't expect this elderly woman to be the killer.
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
And for her to pull it off, to be convincing, she was very convincing. She was creepy as hell. I've even said this many times. I believe Pamela Voorhees is scarier than Jason.
Look what you did to him!
Just because of Betsy Palmer's portrayal. She is that creepy. And not the character that I would want to be near. And also, it's easier to let your guard down when you're dealing with a female killer, especially one that's, you know, up there in years. I actually had this conversation with Deborah Voorhees when we did a commentary on the first movie together. Or it wasn't a commentary, it was more of a review.
There's that instinct that comes through. And I think, you know, for most mothers, it would be an instinct to protect in the moment. For her, it went further.
Yes.
Into a psychology.
There's like a disconnect there, you know. It's like reality and fantasy. They don't mix, and so she goes into it like another world in her head.
Right. She didn't seem to understand that people she was actually killing didn't have anything to do.
Yeah, they didn't. They're just there to have fun and go to summer camp.
I'll put a card here so you can check that out. And we had a full in-depth discussion on Pamela Voorhees, on the psychology of why she killed, and just women killers in general. And it was a really fun discussion. And then number 1, of course, Jason Voorhees. We wouldn't be here without that killer, without Jason Voorhees, you know, putting on that iconic mask, delivering all these amazing kills. Everything, it all stacks up. It all leads to Jason. Hell, in the first movie, probably one of the coolest endings, like jump scares. If you want to make a good jump scare, that's how you do a jump scare, with Jason Voorhees coming out of the water and attacking Alice. It shocked everybody. That scene is just played out so well because it just has this nice, somber music, kind of letting you know that, okay, we're done with the movie, you can get up, and then boom, Jason comes out of the water. Rest of the franchise, Jason just kicks ass, slays the whole time, even up to the last movie that we had. Played remarkably by Derek Mears. There are people that are so obsessed with Jason Voorhees. It goes far beyond the movies, you know, and they will die Jason Voorhees fanatics. Just like Michael has his fans, just like Freddy has his fans, Jason definitely has his fans. And it's always a close call between Halloween and Friday, you know, as far as like the killer goes. And they're both silent killers. They have their differences. But I'm glad they have their differences. I'm glad that Jason Voorhees isn't a Michael Myers knockoff. And I'll say that. He's not a Michael Myers knockoff. Yeah, they're both silent, but outside of that, they're both very different. So anyway, guys, that's it. That is my top 13 things the Friday the 13th franchise gets right. I know I missed a couple. Let me know down in the comments. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day on Fridays. We do free-for-all Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and